Thank you for joining us today on Connect and Collaborate, where we come together each day to introduce you to our network of business and community leaders and to discuss the important issues that impact business in Colorado and the region. I'm Tammy Schaefer, your on-air producer, and today we're connecting with Talent Found, Creating the Talent Pipeline, with Stephanie Veck, Director of the Colorado Workforce Development Council. Stephanie, it's great to have you back.
Hi, Tammy. Thank you. I always love coming every month and doing our show on the Talent Pipeline. I really appreciate you having us here.
We're happy to, because I think you're doing a lot of great work to get the workforce ready and getting employers involved in helping to create that workforce.
That's great. Well, as we were talking about right before we started the show, Talent Found is the brand of the Colorado Talent Development Network, and it is all of the partners from early childhood education all the way through lifelong learning that make it possible for people to design their own unique path to success. So by having the show and being able to showcase our different partners and the different players in each part of creating that talent pipeline is really important. And so I'm super excited about our show today. Our show topic today is competency-based education and training, and specifically exploring the role, goals, and efforts of higher education in Colorado. So last month, October, not quite, a little over a month ago.
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah, several of us.
How quickly did that go by?
Exactly, too fast, way too fast. We collaborated to host the Sector Summit, which was a cross-agency, cross-system collaboration around competency-based education and training. And so thank you to the Colorado Business Roundtable for being one of our partner hosts. We had several partner hosts that are nonprofits and entities passionate about talent. And we also had many state agencies and local partners, and one of them was the Colorado Department of Higher Education. And so for that, and for a look at the extended work that higher education is doing, I've asked Dr. Kim Hunter-Reed to join us on the show today. Dr. Reed is the Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Higher Education, and so she oversees all of the systems and networks related to higher education, public, private institutions of higher education, as well as the private and occupational schools across the state. So anywhere you might go for training after high school falls under the purview of the Department of Higher Ed. And so, Kim, in the beginning of our next segment, I will read your actual bio. But for now, I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for being with us on the show, and we'll chat a little bit about the Sector Summit.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. The summit itself was an amazing opportunity for us to bring together K-12 higher ed, business, industry, workforce to really talk about how do we advance talent development in Colorado. So I'm very excited to be here and to talk about that work and how do we advance that work collaboratively, since the show is Connect and Collaborate, right? So that's what we're all about, and we've got to make sure that we have more great talent in our state, more individuals who have credentials post-high school, and so we're fired up about this and excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's great. So Tammy, as I said, thank you to your support and to so many partners. It was the middle of October, October 17th through the 19th up in Keystone at the Keystone Center. Great place to have a conference, really wonderful people to work with. We had 550 people from all of the different segments that Kim mentioned, and the way the conference or the summit worked is that on the first day we convened everybody together in a general session, and then they broke it up into their segments that they're used to working in. So K-12, higher ed, workforce development, which included human services and people with disabilities and all of the different wraparound services that are available, and then industry. And they met and worked on what it means to collaborate, what it means to partner. And Kim, your organization convened all of the different institutions from the state and really had a conversation about what it means to be industry-led and competency-based. What was one of your key takeaways from your segment that day?
A couple of things. First of all, I think it's always important to have in the room individuals who've already walked that journey. So you always hear from people who say, can this be done? Or the self-talk is, this is just too hard. We can't get there. But when you have exemplars who have done this work, who are able to demonstrate how to navigate this work through higher education. I thought that was an important opportunity and takeaway. The second is really this idea that this evolution of knowledge transfer is going to look very differently. So how do we, as a sector, really think about skill-based learning and skill-based training and hiring? So I thought that conversation around, this is not our educational experience or our grandfather's or grandparents' educational experience. This is going to be different. And the high school diploma will no longer be sort of a proxy for learning. When you think about skill-based, competency-based, you're basically saying, what can you demonstrate as a result of the education and training you have received? It's a very different way of thinking about education than seat time,
right.
But an important one. So I thought that there was good sharing of information, good conversations, and really meaty conversations about how do you make this happen, and how do you make sure it works well for students and for industry.
Excellent. And I poked my head in each of the segments, and I would say that the takeaways were similar. That industry kept saying, well, what do you mean when you say you want us to lead? We don't have the capacity to do all of this. So helping them understand that leading is not doing all by yourself without that trusted partnership between the public partners, K-12 and higher ed and others. And it was a real eye-opening experience to define what industry-led means, which is allowing industry to give the information that they need to set the priorities and to ensure that our education systems have all of the information that they need to be able to adapt to industry's priorities and industry's needs, but that no one's in it alone, that we have to do this together. It takes everyone. It's too much work, and it would be crazy for us not to do it collaboratively across all the different segments of the partnerships. So the next day we jumped into, we had an industry panel, and we really talked about competency-based and work-based learning and the value of, at the same time that you're in high school or in college or, going through a training program of some type, at the same time that you're getting that additional experience. And so we're going to really dig in deep in the next segment on what that means to be industry-led and competency-based, specifically for higher education.
Perfect. We're eager to learn more of how you pull all that together. We're talking with Stephanie Veck from the Colorado Workforce Development Council, along with Dr. Kim Hunter-Reid, Executive Director, the Colorado Department of Higher Education. Stay with us. We'll be talking more here this coming hour with Talent Found, creating the talent pipeline. Stick with us. Right after the break, we'll be back with much more. Thank you for staying with us here on Connect and Collaborate. We are talking with Talent Found, creating the talent pipeline, with Stephanie Veck from the Colorado Workforce Development Council. It's great to have you back.
Thanks, Tammy. It's always exciting to be back, and I appreciate it. So in the first segment, we talked about our sector summit, which was really a convening of several different segments, really looking at industry-led, competency-based education, training, and even more importantly, in some cases, hiring, because until businesses start hiring based on competencies, we don't have the signals that our education systems need and our students need to value competencies. And so we're going to dig deeper today on today's show. And so, as you mentioned, Talent Found, Creating the Talent Pipeline is the series topic that the Colorado Workforce Development Council hosts. The theme behind it is that there are many paths to one destination, a successful career. And how do we dig deep and find out what all the work that is going on around ensuring that every student, worker, job seeker, and business have the tools and resources that they need to be successful in designing that unique path. So today, we're very lucky to have Dr. Kim Hunter-Reid with us. She is the Executive Director of the Department of Higher Education. She is a former Louisiana higher education official and recently served on President Barack Obama's administration as Deputy Undersecretary of the U.S. Department of Education, where she led a post-secondary diversity and inclusion work at the White House Initiative on historically black colleges and universities, Previously, Dr. Reed was a principal at HCM Strategists and dealt with public policy and advocacy in Washington, D.C. So thank you so much, Dr. Reed, for being with us.
Thank you.
I know you're a very busy person, and we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today for our show.
I'm happy to be here. As you know, you are one of my favorite folks. So it's always an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity to be with you, and certainly, Tammy, to be with you to talk about these important topics.
It is important, and so I have to ask you quickly. So I read a little bit of your bio. What an amazing background you have. In addition to all of that, you're also a mother, an avid sports lover, and a wife, and you balance this crazy busy professional life with a family, and you understand what it means to have those challenges that so many people are struggling with to balance all of those different things. So what in the world got you on this path to your career to want to come to Colorado and do these amazing things while still balancing all of the other things you have in your life?
Well, you know, it's a wonderful opportunity to be here. This is an amazing state, as you all know. And I really have always loved education. I really am from a family of educators. My grandmother was a teacher. Both of my parents were in education as well. My father still. My mother's deceased. But it's just been a calling, you know, to really try to think about the fact that I had an opportunity to pursue education. College was never a maybe for me. It was a must, and I came sort of third generation college student. So how do I make sure that my life's work opens more doors for students? That has been something that I really have been excited about, and this was such an amazing opportunity, working with our 31 public institutions, working with the governor, the cabinet, the legislature, the public, everyone, to try to make sure we have more talent development in Colorado. So it was impossible to say no. It's so exciting to say yes and be a part of this. And I will say from the perspective as a working mother, I have a sense, and we all do, right, of how hard it is to balance, and how important it is to have those skills that allow you to have the earning potential and the leadership potential to move your family forward and your life's work forward. Right. And so we have so many struggling students, and certainly single moms, working moms, dads too, that need help and support. And so I think it's important that we think about their lived experiences, and what does that mean for how much better we can do our work, and how do we make sure that the policy and practice removes barriers for students and allows more people to be successful.
That's fantastic. And you have, I'm going to give you credit for coining the phrase, whether you did or not. You're the first person I heard it from, so I credit you. But I love when you say that it's about multiple paths to success, and all of those multiple paths have to come with equal dignity. Now, I didn't say it as eloquent as you say it, but what does that mean, multiple paths with equal dignity?
So as you know, well, let me say this. I'm going to age myself. When I was in high school, shop was cool, right? We had shop, we had home ec. People could do those kinds of, pursue those kinds of jobs with dignity and excitement. Then the pendulum swung, and we said 4-year success, 4-year college degree was the only measure of success in America. And now we have to swing this pendulum back to the middle and say your interest and your aptitude should lead what path you are on, but there are multiple paths to success for students. Whether you start with a certificate, a 4-year degree, go to a technical college, what do you want to do? How do you want to contribute to this amazing economy and support your family? That should be the measure of success, not a 4-year or bust. Right. And so we've got to figure that out.
That is such a great way to say it. I've always said it's not either or. We're not saying don't go get a 4-year degree. We're not saying 4-year degrees aren't valuable. They are ridiculously valuable, and we know that there are many industries and businesses and occupations that absolutely need that 4-year degree. But we also know that in Colorado, only about a third of our population actually benefits from going straight from high school to college to career with a completed degree and going into a career. And we know the other 70% aren't unsuccessful, but what are we doing to help them? And how do we help people get on a path that gets them to where they want to be and to a place in their life. If someone says, you know, I want to start out being a bookkeeper and I want to get some experience working in a bank, and once I am a bookkeeper and I get experience in a bank and I find out I really like doing this stuff, maybe I want to go back to school and get my degree in accounting and become a CPA or a financial advisor of some sort. But we really have to stop that whole concept that if you don't go straight from high school to college and get that degree, that makes you less successful or less valuable than someone that took a more work-based path or a technical training path. And that, you know, even if a person decides skilled trades, whether it's construction or welding or plumbing or something like that, we still have great opportunities for people to become entrepreneurs, and they're going to need some college education to help them be successful at growing their own business. So it really can't be an either or. It's got to be both all the way through.
Absolutely, it does. And when we think about this knowledge economy, right? So we know that in Colorado, it's estimated that 74% of the jobs will require something post high school. So I think you've said it right. 4-year is not the only measure of success, but we do know that given the technology and knowledge-driven economy, the high school diploma is the floor, not the ceiling.
Right.
So how do you have something post-high school that is meaningful and puts you on a path that allows you to contribute, to work, to make more than a living wage or a living wage plus? And so that's an important thing. And we say to students, where you start is not where you're going to finish, right? Because it's lifelong learning. But we need to make sure that everyone understands that you have to have something beyond high school to really participate strongly in this economy.
Whether that's education in the trades, whether that's associate's degree or something like that, and then you build from there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And if someone gets a industry recognized credential, they go into an apprenticeship program and they get all of the credentials that they need to be successful in that career is as valuable and as important and deserves to have the same dignity that a career that was generated through a 4-year degree, and that they're all equally valuable, that there isn't one that's more valuable or more important to our society and to the individuals that choose those paths than any other.
Absolutely.
And well, when you said that, when you're talking about that, whether it was a generational difference over the past however many years, that there did develop this attitude that maybe it was a waste of talent if somebody didn't go for a 4-year.
Right, or skilled trades, those types of jobs were only for those kids
people.
that weren't
Exactly.
smart enough to go to college. And whose right was it to choose whether someone was smart enough, or the kid that should be on the path for the college, or the kid that should be in shop? That was the whole dilemma, is that teachers shouldn't be making those choices.
True.
But instead of giving teachers and parents and counselors and students better tools to make better choices for themselves, they just directed everybody to college.
Yeah, and I've heard also, you're too smart to not go for a 4-year degree.
Right.
Well, what if you're really smart at something else and can really succeed at it?
That's why I think the aptitude and interest really has to lead the conversation. What are you interested in, and what would you like to do? And that will make you successful. And who knows what your path will be. These paths are not linear, as all of us could speak to our paths, right? They're more of a lattice and a lot of support, mentorship, etc., than they are linear.
Right.
So very few people that you meet will say, when I was little, I wanted to be this, and I have done it, and I've done it for 20 or 30 years.
Right.
It's lifelong learning. We change jobs, and we change opportunities, and so you have to continue to skill build.
Right.
But it's very important, I think, that we lead with aptitude and interest, and say to every student, you are going to do something amazing. Tell us about the amazing thing you want to do.
Exactly. That is a wonderful way to ask the question instead of, what are you going to be when you grow up? I like that so much better. So in the next segment, Dr. Reed, I want to talk about Colorado Rises. Colorado Rises is the higher education, the Commission on Higher Education's master plan, which then your agency is charged with partnering with the institutions to implement.
Correct.
And so I want to talk about that and why the goals, the 4 strategies and goals that you've set out in that plan are so important. Do you have, what do people have to expect from Colorado Rises?
Well, it's obviously our commitment to say that we need to make sure Colorado works for everyone, and how do we put together a vision and an implementation plan that allows us to get there. We are a state, as you know, that attracts great talent. We want to support great talent, so I'm looking forward to talking about that.
That'll be great. So in the next segment, we will dive into Colorado Rises.
Yep, that's right. Stick with us here on Connect and Collaborate. We'll be right back with more. Thanks so much for staying with us today on Connect and Collaborate. We are talking with Stephanie Veck, the Director of the Colorado Workforce Development Council, and this is Talent Found, Creating the Talent Pipeline.
Thanks, Tammy. And today's show is competency-based education and training, specifically exploring the roles, goals, and efforts of higher education. With us today, we have Dr. Kim Hunter-Reed, the Executive Director of the Department of Higher Education, and really our champion for a culture shift to competency-based education in Colorado's higher education system, and a stronger partnership with K-12 business and industry and workforce, which we really appreciate. I am fortunate to get to be the co-chair of the Governor's Workforce and Education Cabinet, along with Dr. Reed, and she and I have some pretty interesting conversations about how we're going to get some things done. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. All champions together in one room. That's an important thing.
That is. That is fun. And so in the previous segments, we talked about the recent sector summit that we held together and broadly the importance of competency-based education. But the Colorado Commission on Higher Education, which is your board, just published a couple months back their master plan, Colorado Rises. So, Kim, give us an overview of what people can expect to find in the master plan.
Sure. It's a combination, as I mentioned, of really vision setting and then implementation. So we've said that by 2025, we want to make sure that 66% of the population in Colorado has a credential post-high school. As we've talked about, success means a certificate, associate degree, a four-year degree based on your aptitude and interest, but everyone with something beyond high school. And the 66% goal was set in 2012, so the board reaffirmed that important goal. It is anchored in workforce needs. We are at 55% now. But, you know, when we think about Colorado, particularly Denver, cranes in the air, sunny, beautiful, and the economy's humming, we do know that it's not humming for everyone. So how do we make sure that we're not just a talent magnet in Colorado, but that our homegrown talent is supported and that they have the skills and training to not only fill great jobs, but create great jobs in Colorado? So that really is in the heart of what I think Colorado Rises is all about. How do we have the education and training so that it rises and rises for everyone?
That's excellent, and I love hearing that the new plan built on the old plan. I was just barely coming into this world when the previous master plan was being developed right before Governor Hickenlooper came into office. And so that to me demonstrates a lot. There's been so many changes at the department, and of course, you know, commissioners only serve so many years, so you've got new people leading and continuing a commitment to the 66% goal. So what was the process that you followed to develop the new master plan?
So it predated me a bit. I came in February, and there was work already underway with our bipartisan board that was really wrestling with, what does the research base tell us? I mean, where are our deficiencies? How can we get better? You know, what do the numbers really say about this workforce piece? And how do we address it? And then you see in the goals that we developed that we're trying to really address these specific challenges. One, to make sure that we have more completion. More students who finish what they start, because we know that too many students end up with debt and no degree. So how do we drive this idea of finish what you start? If it's a one-year certificate, start it and finish strong. If it's a four-year degree, the same. The second goal is to erase equity gaps. We moved in 2012 from reducing gaps to erasing gaps, because we think the policy statement is that no gap is appropriate. But we do realize that Colorado, interesting, I didn't realize this before I came, is the second highest equity gap in the country behind California. So how do we make sure that our Hispanic students, our fastest growing population, our Native American students, our African American students are also successful in terms of their education and training? That's an important policy conversation, a heavy lift, but a critical lift for us. We won't get to our goals if we don't erase our gaps, and so we want to do that. We want to make sure more students are successful, and we want to invest in affordability, and we want to invest in innovation. So that's sort of the complement of how do you implement a vision to drive it to reality.
That's awesome. So those 4 goals, again, really quickly, are to increase credential attainment.
Yes.
Completion. Got to focus in on the word complete.
Yes.
Erase the equity gaps, improve student success, and invest in affordability and innovation. Those are some really big goals. And it's exciting to me to see the consistency that these are big goals, but you really are building upon the great work that the system has been doing for quite some time with some really laser-like focus. So when you talk about this first strategic goal of increasing credential attainment, completion, so many people think that when you talk about credentials, it really is that degree, whether it's an associate's degree or a 4-year degree or beyond. But you're really zoning in and focusing on all credentials matter.
That's exactly right. All credentials matter. I just finished visiting the Osage campus for Emily Griffith and met with students who are welding, who are doing automotive, who are doing HVAC. And so, you know, all of them are excited about their career paths and very passionate about the faculty who are working with them. So there's honor in that work. But I, of course, have visited other campuses where students are doing their education and training to be accountants, to be engineers, to be entrepreneurs. So for us, we have a challenge. When we say college, you think 4-year leafy campus, history major, cardigan sweater. And so I've got to say a redefinition of a credential is certificate, technical college, associate degrees, and 4-year institutions as well. So yes, honor in all degrees.
That's excellent. It's to increase from 55% to 66% in 8 short years is a big goal. That is a big increase. And I think that it is so important to recognize the value of all of those different credentials and helping everyone recognize that whatever it is they want to do with their life, they need to do that. And that it is by helping them access the information that they need to get those credentials, to complete those credentials are so important.
Absolutely. I read something yesterday that said if your goal doesn't scare you, it's not big enough.
There you go.
So it's big enough, but actually not getting there is even scarier.
It is.
Because you have families and others who will not reach their full potential if we are not successful. So we've got to get there.
And I would add we have businesses in our economy and our communities that will not be successful if we don't get there.
That's right.
That's right. So the second goal, erase the equity gaps. What really excited me about this is when we did our first talent pipeline report in 2014, the conversation around the state was all about the Colorado paradox, which is that Colorado has this highly trained workforce, but they're not trained up here. And we used the talent pipeline report to test that hypothesis of whether it was true. And what we found out is, yes, it is true. 70% of all adults in Colorado that have a higher training degree didn't get it in Colorado. But we also learned that 70% of people who live in Colorado weren't born in Colorado. So it's less about the reality and more about just the fact that so many people come to Colorado. But the big eye-opening aha for us was the equity gap and the attainment gap, and that it just, as we came out of the recession, whites and Asians were doing as well or better than before, and our minorities just were not. They were, it was, you know, you could see the slope, one going up more quickly and one going down more quickly, and we knew we had to do something about it. So this goal of erasing, not just reducing, but erasing that equity gap is critically important for Colorado to be successful and to continue to thrive.
It absolutely is, and it's certainly, I think, signals, to your point of your show, Connect and Collaborate, an important piece with K-12. Because what we see is that you see those gaps starting early on, elementary, middle school, high school, and then we're losing, right, a leaky pipeline. Less 9th graders are finishing high school, less high school graduates going to college, less college enrolled students graduating. And so we've got a lot of work to do. but this is a commitment statement for us. Do we believe that our homegrown talent is important to invest in? And do we understand that to ensure that every student is successful is a critical part of our mission, I think is an important statement. And so we want to make sure that we are understanding what is happening in communities of color. And as I say to individuals as an African American female, this is not a community of color challenge. This is a Colorado challenge.
This is a Colorado
We need
challenge.
to develop all of our talent and honor our talent. And so that's what we want to do.
That's absolutely right. And when we come back from the break, we are going to talk about the last two strategic goals and how this fits into the whole talent pipeline.
That's right. Stay with us. We will be back with more. We're so glad you're staying with us today on Connect and Collaborate as we're talking with Stephanie Veck from the Colorado Workforce Development Council. We are looking into Talent Found, creating the talent pipeline. Stephanie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Tammy, as always, for having us. Today, our show is on competency-based education and training, focusing on the role, goals, and efforts of higher education in Colorado. And we're very honored to have Dr. Kim Hunter-Reed with the Department of Higher Ed joining us and talking about Colorado Rises, the master plan for higher education. One of the things in Kim's bio that I loved is the last little sentence that says that not only is she a proud wife, volleyball mom, she is a relentless student advocate. And I just thought, boy, that is exactly the Kim that I'd met and just went, I just love this woman. She's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's it, is that we talk about the importance of these goals and what we want to do for Colorado and for our economy and our systems. But at the end of the day, it has to be that student has to be in the center of it. We have to know that we're doing the right thing by every single student in the state of Colorado. And I think, Kim, that is the passion, and just anybody who meets you and talks to you knows that that's what's driving you, is that student at the core. So thank you so much for being here in Colorado and giving your time to us to help us do this shift to competency-based and giving every student a chance to do what they love and to be successful at doing what they love.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, life happens, right? When I went to school, I would say that I was trying to squeeze a little bit of life into my studies. What we see now is students who are trying to squeeze a little bit of studies into their life, right? That they are working, they have family responsibilities, they have work responsibilities. And so how do we honor the fact that they are busy, but that they are also relentlessly focused in getting that degree because they know it's life-changing? And so if we're not really thinking every day about how to make this easier so that students have stronger pathways, clear measures of success, then I think it's a lost opportunity. So every day we should be thinking about continuous improvement. How do we make sure that our students are successful? What else can we do to help smooth the path for them?
That's so true. That's excellent. And a great segue. In the previous segment, we were talking about Colorado Rises, the Higher Education Commission's master plan.
Yes.
And we talked about the 66% attainment goal by 2025.
Yes.
And we talked about the first two strategic goals, erasing the equity gaps and increasing completion of credentials.
Right.
The third goal is to improve student success, and the fourth goal is to invest in affordability and innovation. And to me, what you were just talking about has to be all about these last two goals, right? If you don't do these two things, you can't achieve that.
Exactly right. And when we think about student success, we have to think about students who are coming to us better prepared. You know, this partnership with K-12, less remedial education, more students who are academically ready. But we also are very excited that Colorado is a state where many more students are beginning college in high school.
Right.
38,000, 36,000 students, a third of our eligible 11th and 12th graders, are beginning college in high school. So that saves time and money. And I have done a roundtable with students, and many of them said, you know, college, I wasn't really sure if I could do college. I'm first in my family, but I met this faculty member, and they believed in me, and they were so passionate about what they were doing. And so now I'm passionate about college as well. And so these things can really be life-changing for students, and we have to recognize that every child does not grow up in the same family environment with the same expectations. And so how do we take what we know about what is required to be successful in terms of education and training and build systems and structures that allow every student to get that? That is so important. And that's, I think, at the heart of what Colorado Rises is about.
That's great. That is so important. And then, when you're talking about investing in affordability and innovation, I do think with concurrent enrollment and the opportunities for kids to get more of their high school or their college while they're still in high school, or to explore work-based learning opportunities and start apprenticeship programs as early as high school, all of that starts to fill in the pie to make college more affordable. Can you talk a little bit about some of the innovations that are happening on college campuses that are making it more, adapting college more to the lives of people now? Because we know that students have changed and what they need have changed. And as you said, it's less about fitting life into my college and more about fitting my studies into my life. What are some of the innovations that are happening across Colorado?
So we're seeing more in terms of time, right? We're thinking more about when do we offer the courses? Do we offer them in block schedules so that students can come in the morning or evening, and so they can set their childcare and they can set their work schedules, et cetera, around that? More to do in all of this, but we're seeing pockets of innovation that are important to build upon. Thinking about, of course, what's important, what is the industry expectation? So how do we ensure that when the students are participating in the classroom, whether it's their apprenticeships, their internships, that they're combining both this work-based learning as well as the theory and concept so that they're ready to roll on day one. This is what we love about the CareerWise apprenticeship program. And I have an apprentice in my office who's 16, has blown through her learning outcomes and wants to be the head of higher ed and could probably do it tomorrow. But this idea that we are doing skill building for students while they're learning and they're getting these experiences in industry, these things are very important because they give them more networking opportunities, more hands-on opportunities. They bring their studies to life. And so the relevance of what they're studying, I think, is an important retention piece that is also important for us.
I agree.
Of course, this is the West, so we're not just filling great jobs, we're creating great jobs, right? So how are we thinking about this entrepreneurial spirit? How are we thinking about making sure that more students understand how to start a business? And how do we have these maker spaces where people can come together, or interdisciplinary, so you have nursing and engineering, or arts and education coming together, these places that are not usually coming together on a higher ed campus, but may be coming together in an industry setting. So when you work in an industry, you don't work in a silo, so we shouldn't educate you in a silo. So how are we thinking about that blending of the model? I think those are important innovations too.
That's excellent. That's awesome. And so as we start to wrap up this show, one of the things, so Colorado Rises, how can people learn more about Colorado Rises, read the strategic plan, or get involved in their own education?
So it is on our website, our Colorado Department of Higher Education website. So you can Google Colorado Rises or Colorado Department of Higher Education. I hope that people will be involved by, one, promoting the importance of education for every student and honoring the student's interest, their aptitude and interest. So we want less people saying, or no one saying, you're too smart to do fill in the blank. We want to lead with, what do you want to do? And we believe that you can do it. How do we help you get there? So we've got to break down these barriers about honoring only a 4-year degree. How do we have that for everything? The other thing I think is we've got to make sure that we're promoting the idea of starting this blurring of the lines, right? So you don't have to wait until you're college age to begin college. You should be starting in high school and thinking about that in high school. The way to make sure students are college and career ready in high school is to get a college and career experience in high school. So I think that's important as well. Every person should be an advocate for our students for affordable, high quality education. So we invite everyone to be a part of the policy conversations that will happen in January moving on through the legislative process. An engaged citizenry is important, and we need more relentless advocates for our students, and so we want people to be a part of that as well. We're all mothers and aunts or sisters. We have family members we can reach, and we all have stories to tell about our own sort of mixed match of how we got to where we are.
Right.
Because people believed in us and we kept moving forward. So how do we do that for more students? I think that's so important. And at the end of the day, if we do that, if we erase gaps, if we say there's honor in every degree, if we help to make sure that more people are participating in this knowledge economy, Colorado will rise. And it'll rise more than it has ever before.
That's right.
And that is our vision.
And that's why we have such an amazing champion at the Department of Higher Education. Dr. Reed, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank you for your help and contribution. My organization and your organization collaborate along with many other state agencies to create each year the Talent Pipeline Report.
Yes.
And this year's Colorado Talent Pipeline Report will be coming out in the next couple weeks. It'll be out by December 15th, and it's full of some recommendations. And I just have to say, your fresh look on things and your willingness to take a chance and say, but why not, has influenced this year's Talent Pipeline Report. We sat down to work on our recommendations and had a few legislators in the room, and then we came back and visited, and you know, Dr. Reed said right away, we need to focus in on a few things that we can make a difference, and we need to have real recommendations. And so with your help, we convened the cabinet members for all the different state agencies to come together and created 5 different problem statements and recommendations that are going to be published in this year's Talent Pipeline Report. So Kim, thank you so much for that vision, for your leadership, and for everything that you're doing for not just higher education, but education in the students in Colorado. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's not leadership, it's partnership in Colorado, right? And
That's right.
Stephanie's a fabulous partner, so thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you both for being here. And thank you for listening. Have a great day.
And Connect and Collaborate, where we come together